We're recording.
Well, hello there, Ben Haymond.
Hi, Angela.
Welcome to the Red Couch Talk.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
It's been, it's a total pleasure. We only met, I think, in real twice so
Right,
far.
that's correct.
But I remember a very vivid conversation about creative writing
Hmm.
that started us off in the annual, it's not a Christmas, but it's like a holiday event that we have
Yeah,
from our association, Theatre Switzerland.
yeah.
So, Ben, tell us a fun fact about you.
Fun fact about me. The one that always fascinates people the most is two things. I am a Deadhead, which is I absolutely love the band The Grateful Dead.
Uh huh.
And I've been listening to the band for 30 years. And as time goes on, it seems like that's all I listen to. Um, in addition, and on occasion, I'll listen to something else. That's one thing. And the other thing is, I eat chilies, and by chilies, we're talking very hot, spicy food all the time. And it started off, it's something that I've been building on for years. And I even grow my own chilies. And I do chili tastings in this department sometimes with students, with colleagues. And it's, even though I can do 10,000 other things, people will know me as the guy who tried to poison the dean of the students. So,
Oh, that's really a nice hobby to have. And
yeah.
I can share a secret. I have my first chili plant too.
Oh, what kind do you have?
I don't know. My partner planted it, so I really don't know what it is exactly, but the chilies are very spicy.
Yeah.
I've had the first harvest already.
I
Harvest.
mean, I have these super hots which are over 1 million plus Scoville units, and literally
Uh-huh.
when I eat the thing, I can feel it burning the inside of my ear canal. I mean, it's barbaric. And I mean, I can't tell you, there's been more than one time at midnight that I've been lying on my bathroom floor because that's the coldest place in the apartment, writhing in pain because it's hit my lower intestine and it's just been horror. But still, I do it.
So I'm not sure what the right word is for the kind of thing that we actually enjoy, because it's not a sweet tooth.
No, it's
It's like a hot gut or something. I don't
yeah.
know how to call it.
Some might use the word masochism, but I'm afraid that's too unfair of a description. It's just have a strong palate.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting,
Yeah,
interesting. And I- I'm not sure I remember how you ended up in Switzerland.
that's a long story.
Yeah, we have time.
Wonderful. Let's start with my journey to Europe to begin with. I began in 2006. Well, the year before 2005, I had I'd cashed out I'd cashed out a stock because when my father died, I inherited a bank account in which there was about 2,500 bucks, and I invested in some small regional bank that got bought out by a bigger one. And that buyout coincided with me finishing my master's degree. So I decided to take the money and go to Europe for the first time on my own. So I just cashed out cashed out this stock, which was probably worth a couple thousand, and went to Europe and just liked it so much. I decided I have to figure out how I'm getting back. And then 7, 8, 9 months later, March 26th, 2006, I left Washington Dulles, flew to Frankfurt, Germany, and then took my first job in Magdeburg, Germany, in at the end of March 2026, or no, 2006, 26, 20 years ago, 2006. And then from there, I was in Magdeburg for 2 years, a little over 2 years, and then I found a job at the University of Bamberg, and I lived there for 2 years. And then in August of 2010, my girlfriend, now wife, and I rented a moving van and took our few possessions and drove across the border into Switzerland. And I've been here since because I have a
Is your
job
wife
option.
German?
My wife's German. That's correct.
Oh. Gut.
Ja,
Das ist ja sehr gut.
ja, ja. Ich
Sprichst du
hab Deutsch von
Deutsch?
ihr gelernt. Sie hat mich Deutsch beigebracht. Ja,
Schön.
ja, ja.
We should continue in English just for the
Wow.
viewers, but
Fair, fair
yeah,
enough.
fair enough. Next time we'll speak German when we bump into each other.
Oh, good.
So
Now, are you German
I
or
am, yes.
where are you from?
Lake Constance
Okay.
originally.
Oh, so
Yeah.
the civilized part. That's available.
I grew up near Heidelberg though. And then, before I lived here, I lived in Frankfurt for 10 years.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right.
And I studied in Paderborn, which, I'm not sure if you know that.
Yeah, it's Niedersachsen.
Nordrhein-Westfalen.
Not okay. It's on, but it's close to the border, I believe.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And that was because they were the only university offering a course in international business
Oh,
studies.
that's cool. That's very cool.
And I think you're teaching in that field, right?
I have a couple courses there. Yes.
Yeah, see? It's all
Well,
connected.
I believe that. Yes.
So tell us about your why. Why do you do what you do?
Job wise, you mean, or in general?
Maybe, there's a deeper driving force.
Oh, the why. What do I do? Okay. Um, at the very core, I suppose I'm fascinated with people. I'm not fascinated with business. I wish I could say that, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm interested in people's stories, and that's probably what drove me to do my bachelor's in history. And I'm interested in talking to people, and I'm interested in understanding how people speak, which probably led me to study linguistics, and also it probably explains why I'm interested in learning languages. I don't learn languages for some abstract notion of a deeper intellectual development. I don't care about that. I care about being able to talk to people. I want to talk to people. I want to hear their stories. I want to hear how, for example, you as a German speaker can relate to this. There is a certain way that you speak in German that when you translate it into English, it does not work. But yet it makes
It
sense.
doesn't even work in Swiss German.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by that,
Yeah.
and I'm fascinated because there's a theory, an old theory, superior wharf hypothesis, which deals with this notion that your language um, can influence the way you think, which you can then take it a step further. It can influence the way you see the world, and
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
that fascinates me a lot. So I'm driven by a fascination in in their stories, in their cultures, in I think is it safe to say I'm interested in life. I'm not I've never gotten tired of learning, and I think that's fun.
You're like Goethe.
Well,
Goethe's Faust.
that's a hell of a that's a hell of a comparison. I can live with that. So
And you're also an author.
that's correct. Yes.
So tell us a bit more about your stories.
Um. So like I'm supposed to send these two books to a former colleague of mine, but this is the first one.
Yeah.
I deliberately kept it for 3 months for this talk, and this was a story that takes place largely in Germany, and it takes place over 1,000 years in Germany, and in some ways perhaps it's a love story that takes place, but it's also a deep dive into the East German mentality because my main characters in this particular book, my main characters is a guy named Louis, and his father was German, and after his father dies, he goes back in search of his roots, which I can relate to because when my father died, I returned to my parts of West Virginia in search of. My father died, but the day after I turned 22, and I
Wow.
went in search of. I had a couple years where I needed to answer questions before I could really do anything else. So I went and studied and did my master's degree nearby where I grew up so I could get an answer for a lot of sort of unanswered questions about where I came from. I knew it abstractly, but until you've driven down those awful West Virginia roads, you can never know where you came from. And that's part of what drove me. And I saw that in my main character. He goes back to Germany, and while he's there, he meets this woman, and he has this feeling that he's and once they have this connection, and this connection is unexplainable, and he feels like he's loved her forever. And that became the basis of the story. So then the question goes, well, what does it look like? If you love someone forever, beyond the life you're living now, what does it look like? And then the next question is, why couldn't it have lasted before? And that becomes the basis of this story.
Wow, that sounds like something I would love to read.
I think you,
And as you know, you gave me already the links. So for our viewers, we will have the links in the show notes. If somebody wants to order the books, they can also order them, right?
and this book in particular, I mean, this was my first
Shadows in the Fog, it's called.
Shadows Within the Fog.
Shadows
Yes,
Within the Fog. Uh-huh.
yes. This book is my first attempt at writing in a novel,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and I still like the product of what I created. I mean, I do like this story. I
Wow.
mean, I've heard the feedback that it could have been longer, but as it was my first novel, I'm satisfied. I mean, could I write a sequel has also been a question. I'm not certain what it would look like. Maybe it would be a dive into one of the characters' lives. There's four characters in this book. A guy named Lewis, Katie, his love interest. There's an old woman named Hildegard, who legend has it has been alive for more than 1,000 years. And then there's a third character. Her name is, oh dear, what is her name? Diana, I believe. And Diana is Lewis's best friend from growing up. And Diana kind of plays this role to she links all the characters together.
Okay.
I mean, it's really, in theater, which I'm not an expert, she just has this role to link everybody together. And so, I mean, and everyone but Hildegard, Diana, Katie, and Lewis are all. I would meet people, and I would get inspired by something that I heard, and then they would these stories would make their way into my writing. Like there's a small story of a previous iter- incarnation of Lewis. I'm giving away too much here. It, and it's in Poland in 1944, and they're running away from the Russians. Well, a friend of mine, one of my close friends in Germany, his father was 15 or 16 years old, and they were called to the local village to muster out, and a local SS officer was supposed to send them off to the Eastern Front.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
well, a local sergeant threatened the SS officer and said these kids aren't going anywhere. And my buddy's father fled through the night and to get captured by the Americans. And so I kind of took stories in many instances that I had heard from others and incorporated them into my writing.
Sounds great.
Isn't it? It's just I like there's some great scenes in that book. I do as a writer. I mean, I'm actually kind of impressed with some of that work. I don't
Did you study writing? Did you also take
know.
courses in
No,
creative
I've never
writing?
taken a writing course in my
Uh-huh.
life. Maybe had some high school creative writing, but that doesn't count for anything.
Uh-huh.
I, uh, I, when I say study, I dive into how writers create. I don't watch a lot of videos, but I read a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I probably read on a certain day, I'll read anywhere between 50 to 150 pages in a day of
My goodness.
research or novel or whatever I'm reading, whatever I'm into. I
Uh-huh.
try to read every day and I started to study how stories are constructed based on reading guys like Stephen King. He has a couple fascinating books. Well, he has a lot of fascinating books, but a couple that I actually like reading.
Yeah.
There's Ken Follett, then there's Robert Harris. And I started looking at how they create stories, and then I started to experiment.
Uh-huh.
And when I
Uh-huh.
finally had something that I could look at and show others, I was like, okay, I think I might be able to do this.
And were you never worried about using your real name?
No, no.
Because
Um,
I have that, like I always felt like my creative writing can't be the same brand as my other professional work.
I mean,
I know
no,
it's maybe
no,
it's ridiculous. I don't
no, I
know.
don't think it is ridiculous because it depends on what you write. I mean, like this book, The Last Train,
Uh-huh.
I don't advertise this one as much because it's a story
That's
that,
the one we talked about at the
yeah,
Christmas party.
it's a story that once I finished it, I'm like, oh my God, I actually wrote this. And I tried, and what I did is I tried to write a love story, but then I
Uh-huh.
ended up having a study in toxic relationships. And my characters are so awful that if people come up to me and ask me, where did that come from? I was like, I don't know. My main character is based off of a guy I went to college with who was a real
Uh-huh.
dirtbag. He was a real misogynist. And I kind of took the way he talked
Uh-huh.
and I put it into a character.
Uh-huh.
And if I'm not lying, I'm embarrassed sometimes when I look at it like, oh my God, I wrote that. Because he's a misogynist. He kind of talks about smacking women. It's nothing that I'm proud of, and that's why I don't advertise the book that much.
And does he like die in the end, or
No, he gets chastised.
uh-huh.
He
Does
gets
he
chastised.
develop? Does he
Yeah,
develop?
he does develop. And
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
wouldn't. I don't think I would have published the book if I didn't see some sort of development. Now, some would argue that the book has some very there's some very dark humor within that book, just
Uh-huh.
the way the guy comments on people. Because I mean, it's written. This one's written solely in the first person, and that was inspired a little bit by Murakami. Does that a lot. Murakami writes a lot in the first person, and Murakami also tends to have some very explicit scenes. The difference is I sometimes think there's a certain Japanese mentality in the way Murakami writes that I cannot, for one ilk of inch of or 1 second, imitate. But I can imitate this European mindset that I've sort of picked up over the years. So it's
Is
kind of
it
interesting.
so? Has it any similarity? There's this one book where, they just spend a night in Tokyo. I forgot what it's called.
Um, no, this one's the setting is in Lucerne in central Switzerland.
Uh-huh.
And this guy is dating a Ukrainian woman, and she turns out she's a drug mule. And then she
Oh,
disappears, and then he finds a stash of two kilos of coke in his apartment.
okay.
Freaks out, and instead of calling the police, he goes and he buries it outside of Lucerne. And then he's being tracked by them, and he meets this other woman who just pops into his life, and she starts dominating him in the sense of controlling his life. And
Okay.
anytime he protests, she uses her body to shut him up and put him back in his place. And it becomes this strangely intimate and form of debauchery, if I can use that
Hmm.
expression. You know,
Hmm.
I mean, it's a fascinating story. The story itself, I don't have a problem with. I'm just embarrassed by some of the scenes in it. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you never know.
Yep.
I mean, when Stephen King wrote his novels, that has nothing to do with him as a person.
True. True.
But there's horrible stuff in his books.
That's a very good point. Now I'm also I'm also 2 chapters away from finishing a third novel.
Uh-huh.
And I've been working on this for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And this was inspired by the idea. I've always been fascinated with Roman history, and and I read from a book by Tom Holland. Tom Holland wrote a book called Dynasty, and Dynasty tells the story of the first 4 or 5 Roman emperors after, or Augustus plus Tiberius plus um, they're all animals, but which one? Caligula, and then there's another after Caligula, and then it finishes with Nero. And so I wrote this novel, and it's based off of the idea of the driver of a mob boss, a man who sees lots of horrible things but doesn't participate in them in particular.
Uh-huh.
And the story developed into this guy in search of a way out. And and then of course you ask the question, how does he get into the situation? And how does he get out? And what happens in the end? So I'm 2 chapters away from finishing that, maybe one.
I want to be invited to the book launch, please.
Oh, my pleasure. I'd love to.
So Ben, I mean, writing, lecturing, and living in another country sounds. You have a child too, if I'm not mistaken.
I have a 22-year-old stepdaughter.
Yeah, so you're also family man.
Yeah.
How do you do all that? And do you have a tip for a younger person or a younger version of yourself? Maybe the 22-year-old traveling through West Virginia. What would you tell this person right now as a tip?
That's a good question. I like that. What would I tell my 22-year-old self? Um, I'm always reminded of in Hermann Hesse's Steppenwolf, one of the last scenes is where they say you have to learn to laugh at yourself. If I, looking back at my younger self, I took myself far too seriously. And I think if I were to say anything to my 18, 19, 20-year-old self, learn to laugh at your own folly. And I think that's okay. But in terms of that begs a deeper question, which I like, which is I was just talking about this with a group of students today. Like 20 years when I was like, okay, my mother and I, when I was growing up, my mother and I went through all the James Bond films together. And then I remember watching Goldfinger with her, and I remember being exposed to Switzerland. And I think I was like 7 or 8, maybe 9 years old. And the funny thing is I could, when I think back to my 9-year-old self, I could definitely never imagine that I would one day pass by Stans where Goldfinger's lair is. I mean, that's mind-boggling. Or be up on that major resort hotel nearby Stans, where part of that film was filmed. That's mind-boggling. Who would have thought? And I think that's kind of cool. But what would I say to my young self? Just keep working hard, and stay interested.
Yeah.
Because I think, what I mean, here's a question that's worth asking: can anybody just get up and leave their home country and go into a foreign country, adapt and fit in? I mean, of course, that begs the question in itself: do I fit in? But I think I kind of do. Can anybody just get up and leave? What does that take? Well, I mean, I don't know what you think, but I think it requires a degree of openness, and and a willingness to a listen to what others are saying, b try to understand where they're coming from, and c understand who you are and where you come from. Because when I arrived in Magdeburg, Germany back in 2006, in the beginning it was hard because I was alone for the first time in my life, where I was away from everything I knew. And I started going through, as I've done often in my past, going through and reflecting on where I who I am and how I got there. And I realized that, I mean, my own family history. My dad's brother got kicked out of Harvard back in the late 40s, and then went and lived in Germany and France for a couple of years and learned to speak both languages fluently. So I mean, there is this precedent in my family of members doing that, and I think that probably inspired me to have the courage to go off and try it. And also, the other tip is always buy a return ticket, even if you don't use it. So if
That's a
it's a
great
complete
tip. I
if it's a,
love it.
if it's a complete failure, you can always get back on. You can always get back on that flight and return home.
I would add one thing that I just realized. It's not bad to ask your mom to have a spare mattress,
Yeah.
just in case, you ever have to move back home for whatever reason.
Oh, my mother is turning 80 this year, and it's only in the last 5 years that she finally agreed that I did the right thing.
Yeah.
It took her 15 years to admit that I'd made the right decision. But it's my mother and I are also very close, because we both share the same dark sense of humor.
Uh-huh.
And at the same time, she also, to my mother's credit, I mean, even though she did vote for the wrong candidate, whoever that is, we don't need to say, she's open-minded. My mother's my mother's open-minded and willing to be convinced if you can. So that's a great credit to her, in my opinion.
Are you inviting her to Switzerland?
Oh, she's been here a couple times.
Hmm.
Reaching a point now where her mobility is becoming more and more limited.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I would love for her to come back because she's a lot of fun. My mother's idea of a good time is let's go to the used furniture store and explore what others have gotten rid of. You know what I mean? The Brockie. My mother loves the Brockie.
Me too. I think it's a great invention, you
That
know.
is. Yeah, it's a
And
great
also,
place.
you know, the fact that you can walk around Zurich and just pick up furniture from the street.
Yeah, no, isn't that great? And the thing, I mean, when I first got here in 2010, we didn't have any furniture. And when the Swiss border control looked in this huge moving van, this is a story within itself. We had something much smaller, but then some ferret got in and ate the brake cable. So they gave us this massive moving van, and we only had like 3 or 4 duffel bags worth of clothing to our name. And we ended up having to buy. I had bought all my furniture in the beginning from a brokey.
Yeah.
Well, just used furniture, and I still have some of it 15 years later. But it's a fun story.
I think that's also a quality of people who have moved a lot.
Mm,
I think, you know, they can appreciate simple things.
yeah,
And also, you know, this, like, I sometimes joke that you know, I've been living in the same place now for over 12 years, but it's still not finished. I
I
still,
know.
you know, I still have like not a real lampshade in the bedroom and things like that, you know, that normal people have.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I never feel like that I should settle anywhere. Like, I always feel like, you know, this is a transition to the next place.
I don't know about you, but do you ever get uneasy with staying somewhere too long?
Yes.
Same here. I mean, I've had this itch to. I always have this itch, and it's been with me for 10 years, which is I've now passed my point of completion. Now what? And
Yeah.
it's always there. So
Yeah, and you know, then if I get this feeling, then I travel because now I don't really want to move anymore. But at least then I have to travel because then I have to get out of Switzerland for a while.
I understand. Do you have a favorite country to go to?
Several, yeah,
All right,
yeah.
fascinating.
So that just like for New Year's, I've just spent 10 days in India,
Oh, nice.
and you know, like just somewhere completely different that has a very different vibe. Something
Mhm.
sometimes even like going to a place like Berlin or you know like a big city, not like Zurich. It can be
Yeah,
very like uh, inspiring.
yeah, I agree. I agree. Zurich's a nice city. It really is. It's very clean, and that's something that's interesting about Switzerland. I mean, I love going to Portugal.
Yeah,
I go every chance I can possibly go.
yeah, I haven't been yet. It's
Uh,
something I should do. Yeah.
I love Portugal. Lisbon's probably my least favorite city, but I'm also not big. Shouldn't say it too loud. If the offer would be there, I would be there in 10 seconds. If someone
Uh-huh.
would say, "We'll give you a full-time job, living wage plus," before you could snap a finger, I would be out just because I like the place that much.
Well,
But if you get a chance, I mean, Porto's a fascinating city, but it's the smaller cities outside, the ones that are 70, 60, 70,000 people. Those are fascinating. They're beautiful, they're fascinating. There's a really livable and delightful culture there.
beautiful.
Man,
That's
sometimes I have a Portuguese student, and it's funny because I think it's sometimes it must be awkward because I'm always talking about how much I love that country,
uh-huh.
even in my classes. It's the way it is. I mean,
And do you have any particular way of networking? Do you actually have to do that? I mean, you're sort of settled, you have like a, you know, you have your profession, you have a regular income, but for your books, for example, do you do any kind of promotion? Do you do any kind of networking? How
I
do you
mean,
move about that?
I do have a bit of a technique for networking, and but I bring in as you. I mean, think about the second time we met. It was this Michael Sheridan lecture,
Hmm.
and it's because over the years I've over the years it starts off that Michael Sheridan's a funny story. So take I met Michael Sheridan and through a long circuitous route. It started with there's a guy named Tim Butcher. Tim Butcher wrote a book called Blood River, and in 2000, the early 2000s, Butcher went to Lake Tanganyika and followed Stanley's route through the Congo. And
Okay.
Butcher did this on the back of of a motorbike, a dugout canoe, and then hitchhiking, if I remember correctly. And so I wrote a review of that book on Facebook, and Tim Butcher added me as a friend. And then over the years, he and I have been chatting back and forth. And then the funniest thing is then on Goodreads, he asked me to upvote his books, and I said, sure, if you'll read a few of my blog posts. And then I came back to him a year later and said, actually, I would like to have a cool guest speaker. Would you be willing to do that? And he said, sure. So like, I've never actually met Tim in person, but he and I text back and forth almost monthly. I just talked to him yesterday.
Wow.
And then I said to Tim, I'm looking for a guest speaker for my Asia culture class.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, I know someone in Singapore. The guy in Singapore is a journalist named Darren Schuttler. Darren knew Michael Sheridan. And Darren said, I'll reach out and speak to Michael for you. And if he's interested, I'll let you know. And then Michael was interested. And then Michael, fascinating, he is a fascinating character. He just texted me yesterday with the death of Jesse Jackson. He shows a picture of a young Michael Sheridan. Like, I'll show it to you if you don't mind, if you can see it. This is the coolest thing. So this is a where am I? There we
Yep.
are.
Here, yeah.
This is a
Uh-huh.
young Michael Sheridan with Jesse Jackson
Uh-huh.
in the 1980s.
Wow.
And he said, and Sheridan wrote me, I'm just writing a chapter about him.
Uh-huh.
And when he found out that Jesse Jackson had died, I mean,
Oh.
it's so cool. It's so cool. I mean, and then meeting Sheridan, I mean, and then Sheridan and I, after that lecture, he and I went out and had dinner, and then he's telling me stories about his newest book. I mean, have you read the Red Emperor yet?
No, no, not
When you
yet.
get a chance, it's good, but then the
Yeah.
next it's going to be phenomenal.
His lecture was very fascinating.
I mean,
Also the way he talked.
I know is that it the way. I mean,
You just want to listen to him.
the thing is, I mean, I found my jaw dropping. Like that's what good speakers do
Yeah.
because he stands up and he doesn't have to make a point, but through the stories, you are guided through his world, and at the end
Yeah.
of it, like, I think I've just been enlightened. Um,
And he only had like this one slide up. And
yeah,
then, you know, like, but
and the funny
even
thing
the
is,
young people, I mean, the young people were listening, like,
yeah, and I
totally
created a
fascinating.
slide. I actually, I said, "What do you want as a slide?" And I made it for me because that's good. He didn't even
Yeah.
create the slide. That was me. And
Now, and because normally, you know, like students that age, you know, they can't really keep still for longer than 15 minutes. And they were like listening and they asked really good
there
questions.
were some great,
I was so impressed with them.
there were some very good questions. I agree. But I mean, that's Sheridan. Sheridan. I mean, I tell people if you want to learn how to speak, watch a guy like that
Yeah, yeah,
because I mean that right there is the very best of the storyteller who can just
gold
stand up,
standard.
gold standard of storytellers who can
Yeah.
capture the audience. I mean, even I could only dream of being that good. So I mean, and that's I don't mind saying that.
But when you have your book launch for your next novel, you know, maybe
Maybe
you want to also do a Sheridan, try
why
a
not?
Sheridan.
I
Yeah.
mean, with that next novel, I do wonder: should I go the self-publishing route, or should I try to get a bigger break into a bigger market? And I
Uh-huh.
don't know. I don't know. It's a
Uh,
hard question to answer.
well, I think, you know, what I'm learning is you need an audience anyway.
Yeah,
Even, you know, if you apply to publishers, you have to have already your platform basically. And then they're interested in you.
exactly.
So
I
you
mean,
might as well, you know, you might as well self-publish for a while and also, you know, sell your books directly to your
yeah,
audience.
you get more.
And then, you know, build your platform and then later approach a publisher.
I
I
agree.
was now lucky to get a publisher for my next textbook on global mobility.
That's cool.
But, you know, it also has disadvantages because now, you know, like I cannot decide when things will be made public, when things will be on the market. Like if it was my own book, you know, like I had more control over the whole process. It could be aligned with certain other like lectures and things. So, I mean, I'm glad it's happening,
Yeah,
but I also think, you know, self-publishing is also a good idea. And it's so simple.
it
I
is.
mean, if you think about it,
And
especially
they've
ebooks.
And if you think, but if you also think about it, I mean, even self-publishing once upon a time was frowned upon. There's almost a stigma attached to it. And I don't think that's the case anymore.
Mm,
I think a good quality book is a good quality book irrespective of where it came from.
exactly. And if you have somebody who reads it, then it's a good quality book.
And I mean, and if you have people who interact with the book, that's even more enjoyable.
Yeah.
I mean, in Shadows, there's a couple scenes that I've written, and I go back to them often. And the funniest thing is there's one scene in particular, and it's a scene of my main female character, Katie, and she's traveling away from Lewis. They've broken up, and she sees him in the rear view mirror, and she's driving slower and slower so she doesn't lose sight of him.
Uh-huh.
And then she starts to justify why she broke up with him. And the first time I wrote that, I had the intention that she's justifying it because she loves him so much. But then each time I read it, I see something different.
Oh,
And
wow.
that is awesome. Because I mean, that's when the writing takes a life of its own. And I love that.
Yeah. There's a lot of psychology in this.
Yeah,
So maybe, you were writing from your subconscious and you didn't
maybe.
even know that.
You know, it's good God, subconscious. I just taught a lesson 2 days ago on Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung. And I,
That's where I was going with this comment.
yeah, I saw it. I saw it. And Carl Jung has these 12 archetypes.
Yeah.
And I was teaching, because I'm teaching a course, or I'm teaching in a course on storytelling and or visual storytelling. And my task is to sort of teach the traditional storytelling. So I decided to take Joseph Campbell's modern monomyth.
Mhm.
And Campbell, which he wrote this book in 1949, this book gets then picked up by George Lucas years later and becomes the inspiration for the Star Wars series. And Campbell references Jung's archetypes. So I
Uh-huh.
also taught that. It was a very cool lesson, very fun lesson to teach.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah,
You
I
should
mean,
talk more about this.
well, I mean,
Maybe we should arrange a workshop with our Global People Club
that would be fun. I
because
would
there are a
love
lot
it.
of people who are interested in storytelling and
Yeah,
writing.
I would love that. That would be an absolute blast.
And you know what? I've recently tried, maybe 1 or 2 years ago, for a campaign, like a
Mm,
marketing campaign. I used the framework of the storytelling method,
mm,
the framework from Campbell as it is normally
yeah,
taught. And then I just gave it the idea to ChatGPT. Like my idea
mm,
was do something that is related to certain characters that I have invented and has something to do with global mobility. And he wrote the complete story with, all these 12 steps.
that's
It
cool.
was actually kind of amazing. So yeah, there's a lot, you can also just draw inspiration from.
I mean, have you ever noticed that the stories we read most are the ones that touch us in some way, shape, or form? The ones that really stick with you is something. Take any movie that you've seen that when you put it down, or when you stop when it ends, you just it that lingers with you.
Yeah.
And there's, I mean, there's one that was 20 years ago, which was done by Robert Duvall and Michael Caine called Secondhand Lions.
Okay.
And I just love this movie because it's kind of a feel good movie.
Uh-huh.
It's, and it lingers with you because it's sort of about there's an element of the wonder of childhood and adventure that that I sometimes think gets lost in today's day and age.
Yeah.
And I'm also using it as a chance to sort of plug Robert Duvall because when he died, I'm like, oh no, one of the great actors of that generation. So, but I think the stories that we remember most are the ones that touch us emotionally.
And I think, just to come back to Star Wars, one of the reasons I think why Star Wars is such a success is
Mhm.
because they touch on some universal truth.
I agree.
So,
I
like
agree.
Jung would say, probably, there's a connection with the collective unconscious, with the characters, the family stories, the issues around the relationship to your father, to your mother, and how they influence your life. These are, at least in, I would say, in the Western understanding, in the Western world,
Mhm.
they're very, they sort of, very universal topics.
Yeah.
But I have not really explored the Eastern type of storytelling yet. So and I think that's also one of the strengths of the Star Wars series,
Yeah.
because there's also this element that has a lot to do with, the Eastern worldview, the whole like the Force, the group, the
Yeah.
group synchronicity, basically.
But I mean, that's Campbell does explore that in depth because I
Yeah,
mean, the beauty is Campbell says is that your hero story is basically the same story told in a thousand different variations. And I think he was the first who went through and he's looked at Native American myths, looked at Greek myths, looked at ancient Chinese, ancient Indian myths, and saw these similarities. And I mean, Campbell's writing from the 1940s. There, you do have some obnoxiously long paragraphs, but it's worth getting through. And people even say finishing the book changes you. And
yeah,
I've read 5, 6 chapters. It's something I'm reading sort of in progress as I'm reading 4 or 5 other books as we speak, and
yeah,
also reading research. So
yeah. I think it's one of those books that I have started to read and not finished.
mhm.
Well, one of the questions that I have for you, for myself,
All
is
right, please.
how do you manage to read so much? What's your secret? How do you do it?
Um, I'm a fast reader, number one, and number two, I enjoy it. And I think that's important. I think when we're in high school, especially when we go through a traditional, in the case of German gymnasial education, or this focused high school education, I think sometimes you're forced to read books that you don't appreciate until years later.
Mm.
I mean, I was thinking about it that I'll get back to your question, but I was thinking about, for example, we read Charles Dickens or Wuthering Heights or the Bronte sisters, those were written for adults back in the day, and then you're forcing it on high schoolers who don't have the life experience to make sense of it. But for me, I enjoy reading. I enjoy the turn of phrase. I mean, I truly love the turn of phrase, where there's something that's written in such an inspiring way that there's a couple historical passages where I swore, I'm like, that's it. There's a there's a book called The Guns of August by a woman named Barbara Tuchman, Tuchman. And the very first paragraph of that book, so gorgeous was the spectacle on that May morning. I don't know it all, but she just describes the funeral of Edward in 1904 or 1905, and how, and she describes it so vividly that you just stop, like that's what we do as a writer, and that's why I read so much. I love the language, I love the story, and I've also read enough that I can read faster because, let's be honest, there's only so many structures in the Western canon that you have to follow. So once you understand how something's structured, you just shoot through it. And I also have a photographic memory, which is good genetics on my family's end. But that's how I read so much.
Do you have like a reading chair?
No, I have a chair in my home office that currently gives me hip pains, but beyond that, no. No, just I read. Sometimes I read in the bathtub, which is, you sit up like this. Sometimes I read in the couch. Sometimes I read in the office. Just wherever I'm at, and I make time. I force myself, not even force myself. I allow myself to have 45 minutes or an hour.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, yeah, some great stuff out there, isn't there?
I think, it's like any other habit.
Yeah,
It's just something that, you need to prioritize.
yeah,
And the question is, what do you what you do instead normally? Like I know how I waste my time. Like I watch movies. But but I would prefer to read.
Yeah.
But I often feel very tired in the evening, like after a day of full focus, I often feel very tired and I feel like I'm not sure I can still read something.
I mean,
So that's why I'm wondering, what your secret is.
it's also, I mean, I read, I'm reading more research now, but then when I'm finished, I have a biography of the Grateful Dead, and I'm about 300 pages into that, and it's an 800-page book, but I'm fascinated because I'm familiar with a lot of the topics. I'm familiar with a lot of that world. So now I go back into a world that I don't fully know, but I see a lot of references, which then opens my mind up, and I wander. I mean, maybe I read 10 pages, maybe I read 50 pages, but the point is I read every day, which means that I keep my mind sharp and active, and that's important for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's,
Do you have anything exciting coming up? Is there like, do you have an event or something planned you would like to talk about?
um, exciting coming up. I mean, if I'm in the process of working on a doctoral proposal, in the current, but once that's done, I'll finish my third novel. So let's say that if maybe by June I'll be finished with book three. That would be really cool. Most likely I'll publish it over Amazon Kindle because, like you said, you kind of give up a lot of control when you go through a traditional publisher. So yeah, but beyond that, no, just looking forward to seeing what comes next. That's the beauty of the improvisation, I suppose.
And if any one of my viewers would like to contact you on LinkedIn, for example, is that okay?
Of course, they can also. There's also a contact form on my website, haymond.ch.
Okay.
And it's just a small little page that gives you a little overview of the books I've written. They say that the publishing industry says you need your own website, and mine's done in black and white because my first two books are also done in black and white. So yeah, people are always welcome to contact me. I like meeting new people. I like talking to people.
And we should discuss this potential workshop. If
We
it
should.
would only be probably in the second half of the year or next year,
Doesn't
but
matter.
let's keep that in mind. I think it would
It'd
be
be
a great
fun.
thing.
We could do something really cool, and we'd have a lot of fun doing it.
Awesome. Ben, it was
Awesome.
great talking to you this
Yes, it
afternoon.
was. Thanks so much for the opportunity, and I hope that you get a lot of viewership for this.
Yeah, and have a great day ahead and all the best for your writing and your reading and
Thank you.
lecturing. And I
No,
look
thank
forward
you
to
so much.
seeing you again.
Me too. I hope that's sooner rather than later. So
Thank you.
thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.